Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Chicanery. We are your hosts. I'm Danny, and we have JT.
Hello again.
And so this is going to be a sort of assemblage of sports car shenanigans, as I like to call it, um, that took place over the last few weeks. Of course, I talked about it a little bit. Certainly a few episodes ago, but your girl went on vacation for a little bit. And so as a result, well, we didn't record and some things have happened. So, well, time to get caught up. So I suppose without further ado, I guess kind of jump into sort of the updates and things that were kind of happening in sports car dumb while we were away. And to kind of kick things off, um, So, we talked about it a fair bit. AF Corsa was very grouchy about the way sort of 6 hours of Spa had been handled earlier this year. And so they had lodged a number of appeals or protests, which were subsequently thrown out, and then appeals of the thrown out protests. Well, you know how this goes. Well, the final one of those appeals has been denied. So this is an issue that is closed effectively. Um, so that's this is basically effectively.
Reminiscent of Richard Childress racing in NASCAR, like appealing their penalties they got at Richmond when freaking Austin Dillon just like freight trained through like five people to get the win.
Yeah, this is a similar thing, and this is basically, yeah, they're just not. FIA is just not having any of it. Um, insert that clip of The Rock saying "Shut up" here. Um, Moving on is that Alpine has promoted Jules Gounon, which is a reserve driver. However, he is replacing Charles Malaysi, which is a curious one. Um, Not really sure what prompted that. Um, I don't know if you know something I don't.
I mean, I don't know what prompted it. I mean, I just don't understand why they would even do it in the first place, anyways, because like they have a dude on one of their lineups. I think it's LaPierre that said he was going to retire anyways by the end of the season. So like if it was really all that serious, they could have just asked him to start his retirement early. Sure, he wouldn't have a problem with that since he was already going to do it anyways, and then put Gunan in for like the last round at Bahrain, and then boom, problem solved. I don't really know why they would replace Malaysia because he has been doing pretty well this season.
Yeah, same. I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's easy to just throw out the that the French are being French again. Um, and truth be told, I suspect there probably is an element to that here. It kind of seems like no matter where you look, Alpine has been a bit of a mess in certain aspects this year. And yeah, creating a bit of a driver debacle. Well, I guess that's really the last box that they have to check. So, I mean, hey ho. But on to more fun things, and this one made me very happy when I saw it. Uh, Hyundai is joining WEC, specifically hypercars. They are joining with the Genesis brand. And actually, to be fair, I do believe that they are doing both WEC and IMSA. Last I heard. But yes, they're getting into endurance racing with the Genesis brand. Um, Currently, no real idea how that's what it's gonna look like. I mean, it's worth noting that they're all I mean, these are all prototype cars. I think the only one that's truly production based is really the Valkyrie. Um, Otherwise, they're all kind of a vague assemblage of design cues and powertrains that more or less lead back to the brand. Um, so we'll have to see sort of what Genesis does. Now, the thing that I find a bit curious, and this is where I'm going to divert a little bit off into uh, my road car brain is given that currently the Genesis mission and future product plan is like completely electrified cars, given that hypercars are being their hybrids. I do find that curious. And then my brain goes, is this going to be a unique powertrain that they're homologating for a future road car? Or are they going to pull the twin turbo V6 and do something with that? I'm curious. I have a real soft spot for the Hyundai Motor Group, and this has piqued this manufacturer interest has piqued entrance rather has piqued my interest more than most actually. And are they joining? Is it 26 or is it 25?
I think it's 2027
Oh, is
actually.
it 27? Okay, wow, I
Mm.
got wrong both times. Okay, so if that's the case, then that gives them, I guess, some time to figure that out. But yeah, no, just a cool piece of news. I'm very happy to see this. Um, my thing is, I guess I'm just hoping is that it doesn't come at the cost of any one of their other programs, like WEC, or sorry, not WEC, WRC, wrong W and then C. Um, so we'll see. But anyway, moving on. So this is the WEC Fuji race. Um, is that Cadillac got their first pole position at Fuji, which now granted the race didn't end up going so well, but sure. Um, but and this was gonna become a bit of a sign. But the number 15 BMW got a first podium at Fuji, which is well, to paraphrase, well, to quote your notes directly, confetti noises. Um, then not really a whole lot more to end up reporting from there. But then with Coda, uh, Peugeot didn't do so well at Coda, but they actually did have a car that placed P4 at Fuji, which was fun. The number 20 BMW did pretty well, but got a 100-second penalty towards the end, which I completely missed. How on earth did that happen? This was at Coda, by the way.
I couldn't figure it out. I tried to go back. Maybe I'll go back and look and see how it happened. I just don't remember exactly how it happened. I just know I saw it like scrolling across the screen how they usually do with little penalties and like whatever in WEC. And the next thing I knew, the car was in the pit serving the penalty. So I'm like, I don't know what happened there, but it happened, and it cost them a good finishing position, which it would have been the best finishing position uh, of the season for them, barring if like the podium at Fuji didn't happen. But it would have been pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, because that was the thing. I missed it too. It's just like 100-second penalty. I'm like, how? And same thing. I tried to comb through race control and I couldn't find anything. So I, yeah, not really sure what's going on there. But well, there you have it. Um, but and then kind of other stuff. Nico Moore is a Porsche factory driver now, which is cool. Um, but now moving on to the Battle on the Bricks. And name's about as dumb as Lone Star Le Mans, to be honest. But at any rate, that's a dead horse I won't beat today. Uh, qualifying, the number 65 Mustang went for a bit of a spin. Um, the number 77 AO Racing machine got pole, but was stripped of the pole for phrasing, by the way, for a technical infringement, um, which would promote the number 4 Corvette instead. Mercedes, the number 32 Mercedes would end up on pole in GTD. The Inter Europole LMP2, that's the number 52 car, would be on pole there. Grosjean in the number 63 Lamborghini would spin during GTP quali, and Jack Aiken in the number 31 Cadillac would also have an off, and this would result in the 01 Cadillac ending up on pole. Um, but and again, customary question: good race or not?
I mean, the race was good because at least again, it exceeded my expectations for it. Same way with like the Nashville race for IndyCar, because my expectations were very low for this race because again, it's an endurance race, and like even when it was just a sprint race last year, it wasn't all that interesting. So I figured it was just gonna be okay, just basically the sprint race, copy and paste, and just in a longer format, just 6 hours, and it's just gonna be very boring. Um, but it was decent, surprisingly enough.
Yeah, you like I said, you and I had talked off air when we were kind of going over what the game plan was going to be for recording when I got back. Um, and we were talking about kind of the schedule while I was away, was going to be while I was away. And we had both kind of come to the conclusion that the Battle of the Bricks was gonna suck. Um, and yeah, pleasantly surprised. It I don't know because my expectations were so low. I don't know that I can in good faith call it a good race, but it was certainly better than anticipated. Um,
Yeah,
and
I
I
mean there was good racing that happened during it, and then also like the rain did give some like chaos as well, and also combined with the fact that there were a lot more cars in this race than there was like last year because it's an endurance round. So like some of the chaos, like some of like stuff where I'm labeling as good is also because there was chaos induced by like extraneous factors.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the other thing as I was gonna say is that certainly it raining for a good chunk of the race helped a lot, as did the basically fully fleshed out grid. Um, which of course, has its own challenges because a Lamborghini and a Mustang had it coming together. And then actually the number 40 Acura got boofed by a Ferrari GTD. Um, then the LMP2s started, well, doing LMP2 things, which is not too long into the start of the race. And because it was the number 88 spun and got stuck in the gravel, which of course brought out a full course yellow. And the number 22, which is that's United Autosports car, spun as well. And then the 66 Acura actually got stuck on track not too long thereafter this, which caused a full course yellow. I'm assuming that was a mechanical failure of some sort.
I
Yeah.
think it was. They said
Um,
they were trying to like whoever was driving it at the time was trying to power cycle it, but it never would. It wouldn't do it. So
yeah, well, there you go. Um, but things got very silly very quickly as the rain picked up on a restart. Um, this becomes a very rapid chain of events. So, well, pay attention, kids. But the number 7 Porsche Penske Philippe Nasser was in the car at that time. Had to basically bail out of the corner into T1 um, and almost killed the '01 Cadillac in the process. The number 20 and 99 LMP2s missed turn one as well. And also, it's worth noting that basically the whole field was on slicks still at this point, which was a decision and a half. It's like, okay, I have access to radar. Surely the teams do. Did you not see this giant blob of, I think it would have been orange, that was moving through this past the circuit at this point?
I mean, I think they were playing that whole game of like, whoa, do we, like stay out on slicks or like pit, and then like, I don't know, the whole like over and undercut thing, or like, I don't know, gambling on whether or not like the rain was actually going to stay consistent too, because if you did pit for wet weather tires and then the rain stopped, you would have a problem because the rain would probably start like the track would dry up quick, and then you would be losing a lot of time because obviously wet weather tires are not as efficient to use if there isn't enough water on the track to like keep the tires from overheating, because they will overheat if there isn't enough water to like run across them and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was wild, and yes, you're absolutely right. The teams love to play the percentages. I don't know. Maybe this is why I'm sitting here doing this and I'm not calling race strategies. Um, because I was watching that weather system because, well, I knew it was gonna, well, A, watching the race, and B, I knew it was gonna clobber me in a few hours being over in Detroit. And I'm like, oh boy, that's an angry system. So I probably would have put folks on wets, but um, but there was another full course yellow not too long after all of this, because the number 12 Lexus GTD crashed on basically on the front stretch. Um, and which, speaking of which, Lexus actually kind of goofed because that was the perfect opportunity to put the other one on the wet weather tires, and they did not do that. Um, but during pit cycles and a full course yellow, um, folks kind of get themselves together, except the LMP2 field, which like half of the LMP2 grid ended up with a drive-through penalty for one reason or another, which you can do nothing but laugh when you see things like that. Um, but yes,
LMP2 field be competent challenge impossible.
yeah, absolutely impossible. But the number 25, sorry, BMW had an off not too long after this, and then the Action Express Cadillac died. Um, but in all of this, we did get some good racing that coalesced out of in this. The number 63 Lamborghini, which Grosjean was driving, and Jam Jam and the number 6 Porsche were in an almighty tussle for position. But unfortunately, it ended with Grosjean just deciding he was bored of the whole thing and bumped and ran uh, Gemini, which is like, well, okay. Um, then we had some Ferrari malfeasance. Three Ferraris managed to get together in one of the stranger accidents I've seen. Like all of them scrapping over literally the same piece of tarmac, and yet none of them wanting to give it up. Which is a decision that all of them made and then all had to live with. The 23, well, 023, uh, came out the worst and all that and ended up stuck in the gravel trap, which brought out a full course yellow.
I mean, I'm just glad that this time it's Ferraris beefing with each other and not, everybody else, because it's been several times that it's been Ferraris versus, other GT cars. It's been most notably Ferraris versus prototypes. So it's like if they want to scrap among each other and take each other out, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I completely agree, but it's also wild that the Ferraris have managed to become the archetype of misbehavior, particularly amongst GT cars. It's like, how on earth does this happen? Um, but that is, I don't know. Maybe that's some psychoanalysis for another day. Um, the number 65 Mustang, which, if you'll remember, came together with a Lamborghini early in the race, turned basically pit practically. The number 80 Mercedes. Um,
The Mustangs were kind of just having a weekend. They were just not having a good weekend, I would
yeah,
say, because the 65 had like two incidents. You had one of the Mustang drivers, I think, on the 64 car trip during the driver swaps. So, it was just not good. They were just having a rough time.
yeah. Well, that's what happens on rainy days some days. Um, but but yes, and speaking of, well, what could have potentially been a rough time, the BMW GTPs decided that fighting it out for dominance leaving the pits was an intelligent decision. Granted, all's well that ends well, thankfully. But just in what was a very chaotic and, truth be told, kind of strange race. This was just up to this point, kind of the latest installment of that. Um, but more Mustang violence. The number 55, one of the customer cars, um, and a prototype got together, and the Lambo was the one that lost that particular fight and had to pit because of a puncture. A puncture which would also strike the 01 Cadillac, which also then went to obliterate the rear bodywork, um, which effectively knocked that car out of contention. Which, speaking of which, just another chapter of the '01 apparently having, if they didn't have bad luck, they would have no luck at all. Um, the number 7 Porsche would end up stopping on the front stretch, and the car just had no pace for the rest of the race, unfortunately. So, some kind of mechanical issue there.
It was so sad because that car was getting passed by not only other GTPs but also like freaking GTD cars. It was literally slower. Like there was a restart that they did, and I saw it where it's like it was all the other prototypes, and then it was like the GT cars, and there was the 7 Porsche Penske car that was smack dab in the middle of the GTD field on the restart. I'm like, this is so miserable.
Yeah, honestly, I'd probably just retire the car at that point. It's like when you're getting swamped by GTs on a restart. Um, but the LMP2s would act up as they tend to, because the 99 would go for a spin. Actually got spun more accurately, but then the number 75 Mercedes would also get spun. Connor Zilic would contribute to a bit of the nonsense in LMP2, and with some contact with Duresta, which was curious. But then a funny thing happened. So we're getting into kind of the dying days of this race. And, the competitive order tends to do as it does, and it mostly shakes itself out. Well, guess which two things are leading GTP? Not the Porsches, not the Cadillacs, not the
Not even the
Acuras.
actress.
It's the BMWs of all things. And like it's a 2-horse race, and it's between both BMWs. And I, truth be told, thought I was hallucinating that shot of them out front racing. Now, granted, BMW almost BMW'd because they were cutting it pretty close with remaining energy, because they were around 20% late in the race. But yes, the BMWs leading on merit. I don't know what this world has come to, but the BMWs actually having genuine pace. Elsewhere in the field, an almighty brouhaha between a Corvette, a Lexus, and an Aston Martin had emerged for the final GTD Pro
It sounds
podium
like the
spot.
start of a joke or something.
Oh yes, a Corvette, a Lexus, and an Aston Martin walk into a bar. Uh, um, but the but yes, it would be RLL BMW. It would be basically the factory BMW team that would finish 1-2. Um, with the 24 finishing first, the 25 finishing in second, which is the first time that there has been an on-track victory for that car. Again, on the road, because of course it was it after Watkins Glen last year that the Porsche was disqualified, and was it the 25 that inherited the victory as a result, if I remember correctly? Yeah, so to actually do it, so this is the first win since then, but this is the first one on merit. um, which is wild. The number 11 TDS Racing car would win in LMP2. It would be the 77 uh, Porsche, the car that got basically yeeted from quali for a technical issue, that would win GTD Pro. And it would be the number 120 Porsche in GTD. Um, so, yeah, it was a fever dream of a race, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I mean, I thought BMW for sure was gonna end up losing it, where they were trying to do that silly thing where like establishing dominance over each other, it leaving the pits. I'm like, oh yeah, this is where they lose the race. This is where it all comes undone. They're waiting for that infamous BMW fumble moment that has happened literally every single race this season, but they pulled it together.
Yeah,
Amazingly enough.
yeah, I say the BMW fumble, it just didn't happen. Which, as annoyed as that I am that, of course, the '01 Cadillac was in bits yet again, I honestly can't be that bummed. I'm honestly pretty gassed for BMW that they actually managed to pull this one off. Uh,
I think the BMW prototype programs are finally seeing the light. We're finally leaving the hood.
yeah, and like I replied to your tweet, all it took was for RLL to get raided by the feds for them to find some pace. So maybe this should happen more often. Um, but post
I need
race,
to go call up the FBI. The FBI's international branch or fucking like a Interpol on like Pojo or something, and then they'll magically have pace at the last race of the season.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, get the gendarme on the case for Peugeot. I don't know what's French for "oh crikey, it's the Rozzers." I should have perhaps figured that out, but at any rate. But yes, but post race scrutineering was every bit as ridiculous as the race was. Um, I was saying to you off air that I was looking over the notes. I didn't realize that as many cars had been pounded as they had by IMSA for inspection. So the number 24 BMW, the number 6 Porsche Penske, the number 85 Banana Boat Porsche, the number 40 Acura, the '01 Cadillac, and the number 63 Iron Lynx. So like half of the GTP field was uh impounded for inspection. So not quite sure what prompted that. Granted, in this case where there's smoke, there was fire, because it was announced actually yesterday as of the time of this recording. Um, on Thursday, September 26th, INSA had announced penalties for the number 6 Porsche and the number 40 Acura. It was modifications outside of homologated parts. It's what got uh, all of the Corvettes in trouble for
It's
Sebring.
Sebring. They got busted for that and lost their pole.
Yeah. Yeah, so all the Corvettes got in trouble for that, and actually a few other folks over throughout the course of the year have gotten in trouble for that. But apparently for the Porsche, it was modifications to wiring harnesses. And so they got stripped of the third place that they had notched in class, and which moves them to 10th in the GTP standings. And Porsche was fined 10 grand for this. And then the Acura got in trouble for modification of the brake duct system. And as a result, they got thrown effectively last in GTP, and Acura was fined 10,000. And the Banana Boat has effectively cheesed a podium out of all of this, um, which is the first career podium for that car, um, which is cool. But my question is, why on God's green earth did you have to impound half of the GTP field for 2? Um,
I don't know. When I looked at like was looking at like I guess try to see like why they did it. It just said that like it's a part of like normal like inspections I guess that IMSA does like throughout the season I guess.
I know that
Because
they
they
do
did it
random.
after like the Rolex 24 and they did it here, so I guess that's why. I don't
Yeah, I'm
know.
like, I know that they do random, random inspections, but like I said, I just didn't realize that they scooped up that many cars in the process.
I thought for sure it was gonna find out that the BMW was cheating. And I'm like I thought it was just gonna be a repeat of Watkins Glen or something. Instead, it's like I don't know. Like I thought, like it was funny because everybody was making jokes. They were like in the group chat. They're like, "Yeah, IMSA probably thought the RLL BMWs did a little bit too well, and that's what cued them off to be like, no, we're gonna not so fast." And I mean, it's kind of funny that even the 40 Acura was found like some like they did something to that car too, which is like that's not shocking because it's essentially a Meyer Shank Acura cosplaying as a Wayne Taylor car. So yeah, cheating is in its blood. So like, it's not shocking that that car like that's the least shocking thing. And I guess I don't know. It's kind of surprising that a Penske car was caught again. It's like yeah, if I had 2 nickels for every time a Penske car was like caught cheating, I'd have exactly 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice in a calendar year.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, again, we've talked about this stuff before. Certainly pushing the boundaries of the rules is not out of um out of the question for really any of these guys. But yeah, but for the Porsche to get busted twice in the space of a calendar year is kind of impressive. Um and yes, and I mean it's just the Acura back to its cheating ways. So that's not massively surprising all things considered. Um but yeah, but it's cool to see another one of the customer Porsches, even if it is as the result of some malfeasance from some other teams, get a podium. So, yeah, to notch a podium. So yeah, I'm about it. But
I
yeah,
mean, at
no,
least
this
BMW like is also beating their allegations of being penalty merchants.
yes, there is that because like I said, they did it. They got this victory on the road. It's purely on merit. So there are no questions or thoughts or what have you about well, at least currently about pace because it did it. And they also BMW they didn't botch strategy because I mean we've talked about this before. There have been some times where it looked like there was a glimmer of pace in the BMW prior to this, just for it to all be completely undone by either a skill issue on the part of the drivers or its strategy team just going on lunch at the most inopportune moment. And that's what ends up being always has been this car's undoing. And so the fact that we finally overcame all of these things is genuinely impressive. I'm about it. So we'll see. I mean, I guess the next question is well, will they do it again? Um cuz is Petite Le Mans next in it or do we have one more that I'm forgetting?
No, it's Petite Le Mans.
Okay,
Left.
that's what I thought. So,
I
we'll
don't know, I'm
see.
not too hopeful for Petite Le Mans given what happened last season.
Petite Le Mans was such a mess last year. Uh
I mean,
I don't know.
to be fair, BMW wasn't on it, but honestly, it seemed like hardly anybody was on it.
Yeah, nobody
Whether
was.
that be the GTP field entirely or like the LMP2s or everybody else, like it just. I mean, at least in the beginning, it just really seemed like everybody was just unstable on their feet, and we're just like it was just kind of messy overall.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That was one of those instances of a race that nobody wanted to win. And so when you kinda take all of that into account, I blame BMW a bit less. They were just frankly the first ones to blow it, is really what it kind of
Not
boiled
only
down
that,
to.
not only were they the first ones to blow it, but in the stupidest way possible.
Yes.
Like
See
it'd be
that.
one thing if you blew it because you were scrapping with somebody on track for a position or something. I would have still been disappointed, but I would have been less disappointed if it was something that was actually meaningful. Like if they had actually gone down with the fight instead of going out with the whimper the way that they fucking did, then I would have been less disappointed.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fair. But yeah, it was a very stupid way to throw it away, because I mean, you remember last year they were still technically mathematically within a shot of winning the GTP um championship. And then until they weren't, basically. It was one of those things. If they could have outlasted some of the other folks, I still don't know if they would have had enough to actually get that over the line. Because to be fair, BMW always kind of felt like the long shot. I was a little surprised when it turns out, when we were, especially prepping for that episode. It's like, wait, BMW can technically win this? It's like, huh, okay. Um, I don't think that's the case this year.
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Um, but yeah, so yeah, we'll have to see what happens with Petite. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm hoping for a repeat of last year or not, because last year was very stupid, but it was so funny. Um, and it could be funny to have to go back to back in the stupidity. But
I mean, the only thing that really could top like last year's stupidity is if basically you had like the Porsche Penske car, the 7 car, like basically walking into the race pretty much with the championship in hand and finding some way to completely screw up everything, like having just like a catastrophic screw up and completely lose it on the last race. I mean, that would be like one of the main things that could probably top it is if somebody screws up at this point, like at the final race.
yeah, exactly. And that I wouldn't mind that necessarily. Again, just because it's amusing, if nothing else. But it seems like kind of a long shot um, to have something like that happen. But I guess we'll just kind of have to see. Any parting thoughts for the audience as we pull curtains on Indy and look forward to Petit Le Mans?
No.
Yeah, well, with that, we have been your hosts, Danny and JT, and this has been yet another episode of Chicanery. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, everybody.